Welcome to the Strategic Project Leader, where we help you leverage strategic project management so you can achieve your goals. Now, here's your host, Bola Alabi.
Good morning and welcome to another great episode on the Strategic Project Leader podcast. How are you doing this morning? It's such a joy to come into your homes as we talk about all things strategy, project management, leadership to help you as an executive, as a project professional, even an entrepreneur, level up and turn those goals into tangible outcomes. Today is a great day because me as your host, I'm always here to pretty much empower you and give you tools to ensure that you are always top-notch, ready as a leader to turn those ideas into exactly what organizations and our customers actually need. Today, we're talking about a topic that, as you can imagine, it's top of mind everywhere you go, from the CEOs to the mid-level professional to even just the random guy on the streets, or even my son who just came back from school is talking about what exactly is artificial intelligence. AI is one that's transforming the way we live, work, and is transforming the global economy. And how can you be one who is ready to not only just, ride with the waves, but be one who can actually be tangibly ready to take on the future of work? Today, I've got a leader who has actually dedicated a lot of his professional life to technology. And the fact is that, when you see real tech leaders who are so passionate about it, you can actually tell. And he's one that he's worked, when it comes to data on different Microsoft products as well. And we will be diving into data and AI transformation. He's currently the general manager on the worldwide data platform on the go-to-market when it comes to all things Microsoft. He's going to come and share his own views and perspectives to give us tools that we can ensure that can you please give a round of applause as I get Karthik Ravindran. Happy to help me just welcome him on stage. Good morning.
Good morning, Paula. It's great to be here.
How are you doing this morning? So as you're joining us, first of all, let us know where you're joining us from, because today is going to be packed. We've got so much to uncover. I've also got my notes and paper, right? We're going to be taking notes. We're going to be having tools. He's also prepared a great resource as well. So thank you so much for that, Karthik. So everyone who's actually joined us, you're going to get a resource that you can walk away with and review everything we've talked about so you can start getting the results that you want. So I want to get before we get into anything, I want to know a fun fact about you, because when I see tech leaders, I know you guys about the numbers, the data, like it's always work. We want to know something fun about you as a leader. Could you please share? As you join us, please let us know where you're joining us from as well so we could welcome you on stage. So over to you, Karthik.
Thank you so much, Paula, for having me here today. It's such a pleasure to be talking about this incredibly important topic that we're about to unpack today with our live audience. Yes, an incredibly fun fact about me would be, I think, how I bridge aspects of my life with work. Very often people tend to think about work and life as two different things. I think that's a continuum and a virtuous cycle where one feeds off of the other. And the thing I always like to share with folks I work with is the importance of change management and how I took several interesting learnings of change management that happened when my wife and I went on to become parents. After 10 years of personal bliss with no kids, making that leap into the world of parenting and what it taught us about change management and how those lessons apply to work. Several fun stories, but I think that's something that I always cherish and treasure.
Oh my goodness, we're totally aligned. Obviously, that's why we have the strategic lifestyle, segment, because I am a firm believer as well that a lot of the things that we do at work could also help us at home. And it's not two different people, it's just one life that we have. And we can actually leverage those ideas and those skill sets and everything being, a professional on our personal life. But I want to ask, do you have robots at home? Since you said, you're as a tech guy, have you got some AI robots at home?
Yeah, no, we're not there yet.
I know, because I know they say in China, like there's so many robots and stuff like doing things. So I don't know if that's coming, right? So yeah, let us know where you're joining us from. Thank you so much. I can see some couple of people already join us. We appreciate you. Let us know in the comments if you're joining us live, if you're obviously watching us on the replay, so we can actually acknowledge you for a chance to, get heard on live on the show as well. So let's get into it. When we think about artificial intelligence, I know there's this myth about today it's going to take over the world. What exactly are we up against?
Yeah, it's a great way to kick it off. Look, there's a lot of, I think, for lack of a better term, fear and apprehension that's being created in the ecosystem by the way in which the conversations are shaping around AI. And I think we as leaders need to flip that conversation to what it really needs to be.
Mm.
And the way I like to unpack it is if you look at every significant evolution that's happened over the years, every evolution has amplified some facet of humanity and people.
Mm.
Right? The industrial revolution, it amplified our physical capacity to get things done. The information age or the information evolution amplified memory, our ability to automate and scale with intelligent automation. The era of AI that we're now living in is all about amplifying human cognition. And human cognition is anchored on the fundamentals of context, empathy, trust, and judgment. And none of these fundamentals are going to get replaced by any technology, AI, superintelligence, whatever might come next. Understanding how we can leverage this evolution to our advantage and not focus on it being about humans trying to transform the future on their own or AI trying to replace humans in doing it, but humans plus AI together coming together for what could be a powerful humane advantage, HUMAIN, right?
Mm.
Where the humans are still at the core of every transformation. And that this evolution of this powerful technology can help scale humans in realizing what is possible. Defining that equation, helping people get to clarity on what that means, and energizing for the moment as opposed to being in fear is a shift that needs to happen. And every leader has an accountability to contribute to it.
I really love that. And I think with that, let's just go back even to like the fundamentals of what AI is. As you said, there's always been something. I remember, during the .com bubble, right? The internet. We're like, what's going to happen by the time we get into the 2000s? Is everything going to change? It's everything going to fall apart? But we live through it. We've been able to leverage the internet today for so many good reasons and good ways. It's helped organizations, it's helped individuals as well. Life is kind of different. And if we get into understanding the basics for the people that are watching are probably at different levels, what exactly the fundamentals, what do we really need to know when it comes to artificial intelligence?
Right, that's a great question. And let's unpack it in very simple terms. There's a lot of technical literature and communications happening on the subject. And I would add it down to I think more layman terms. First, I think we have to demystify and acknowledge that AI is not something that just happened 2 or 3 years ago when ChatGPT came into the universe. AI has been existent for, I would say, several decades right now. It started with machine learning and it's evolved through various phases to what we today speak about as AI. But if you unpack the tech and go back to, I think, the phases of evolution, way back when this first came to bear, machine learning, AI was all about predicting, applying the compute power of machines together with algorithms to look at large sets of data, to correlate patterns in the data, and then to predict outcomes. Then we entered the age of generative AI, which is about applying the power of AI to create content, to create artifacts that could complement and augment humans. And now we're living in the world of agentic AI, which is about going beyond the creation to acting. And in every one of these three phases, whether it is predicting numbers, whether it's creating content, whether it's actioning, it really comes down to one simple metaphor, which is predicting or doing what is next. And the power of this technology is that its three core strengths, which is its ability to process signals and to process signals at an incredible speed and at a scale that cannot be matched by humans.
Mm.
I call it the S3 strengths, right? Signals, scale, speed. If we can figure out how to take that strength and complement that with our human strengths of context, empathy, trust, judgment, and lived experiences, the collective output of what we can create together is profound. But to do that, it's really important for us to understand what the tech is about and what it's not about, right? What are the strengths of the tech and what are the unique human strengths to complement it? So that I think is the crux of the framing, which once we are able to anchor on, will shine the light at the end of the tunnel and show us how there's such a bright future out there where each of us as humans can reinvent, can reimagine what the future could look like for us. And that's what I'm most excited about in terms of the opportunity ahead of us.
Exactly. I love the fact that you just, we spoke about the speed at which AI can actually work, the skill that, it's actually processing information. And you said something about there's a unique piece that human brings, into everything. And I know that a lot of the time is always the contextual piece around information because the machine can process data, can process large amount of information, but there's some context as well that they may not be, aware of. And how can what would you say are the key attributes? And when we differentiate, this is exactly what AI is definitely going to be great, or technology pretty much. And where are the human elements, what are those human pieces that we can start probably doubling down on so that we can empower ourselves, so we keep being relevant through this age and through whatever comes next?
100%. Great question. So I think it's important to look at it from two angles. First, we have to talk about how did AI come to become the power that it is today? How AI, the models, the large language models that we speak about, what are those things actually trained on? They are trained on data and signals, right? And where did the data and signals originate? It originated from humans.
Yes.
Whether it's data signals within an organization, whether it's data signals from the global corpus of data, which makes up the internet today, every piece of knowledge and information that the AI has been trained on has in some shape or form originated through a human action. And now we're at a place where these models have brought all that great knowledge together, have correlated the patterns, and are now able to take on incredibly complex tasks of predicting what's next, whether it's creating content, whether it's taking actions, predicting numbers, you name it. But here's the deal. What happens if that unique context flow from the humans were to stop? The models are now going to be at a baseline where the differentiation from person A to person B, from organization A to organization B, is going to reach a flat baseline where the core crux of innovation, which is differentiation, is going to stagnate. To continue to build on what is possible in the future, the human judgment, the lived experiences of human beings, the unique context that human beings bring about that understanding of specific domains, their crafts, their core crafts, and integrating that knowledge with the AI is the only combo that can lead to the next wave of innovations, right? If not, every brand is going to look the same and every human is going to be performing the same things, and that's not going to move the world forward.
Yes.
So the context includes understanding of a domain. It includes a deep understanding of n-ordered thinking in terms of lived experiences, both successful experiences as well as learnings and failures that can help shape future outcomes. That rich context is very often wired in humanity and in human thinking and capability. It's not always encoded into data sets and models.
That's right.
That uniqueness, which comes together when you integrate that human ingenuity with the power and the scale of the model, is something that I firmly believe will continue to sustain, no matter what the future holds and no matter where this technology goes, including superintelligence, which is another commonly talked about things these days.
That's right. So pretty much we know that things are going to change, data is going to be transformed, but the contextual piece, I think that's the number one thing that humans bring to the conversation is actually critical. But this also comes with we as humans to keep understanding the, the environmental context, understanding the domain specifics, understanding, those interactions that we can already see maybe from economic shifting, from, trends and those kind of things as well. And so especially for project professionals who are actually listening, executives wondering, what's coming? Or, okay, now I think I know the context a little bit more, but I'm still scared that my job is probably going to be going away. What can they really start doing now? What else can they really add? Because that's a question I keep getting over and over and over again to say, okay, what exactly can I do? Because now I know that my reports and AI can actually do that. My scheduling piece, I think AI can actually do that, and probably it's just the meetings. We don't have robots doing the conversations now. But what else? What are you seeing internally and externally that humans can actually start working on now to keep differentiating themselves seriously in this market that we are in today?
That's a great question. So let's start with the framework for that, and then let's make it real for project leaders, right? So if we start with the framework, I think it starts with two very simple questions that each of us as humans, agnostic of our profession, need to ask with intention and reason. Question one is, what is it that each of us can do uniquely? And that only we can do uniquely as humans, both in a general context and in the context of our crafts and professions. The second question to ask is, how can I apply this powerful technology in AI to amplify me in being able to do more of what only I can uniquely do, right? Applying the signal processing, the scaling, the speed of this technology to help me scale and spend the vast majority of my time thriving in doing what I'm uniquely capable of and best positioned to do. And if you look at all of us as professionals and took our day to day, and if you deeply sat down and thought about our day at the end of the day, I'm willing to bet that almost every one of us face the 3D challenges. The 3D, what I mean by that is tasks that are dull, that are draining, and that are daunting. Just the toil that it takes to just repetitively spin the wheel in performing a certain category of tasks. And if you compare that to the amount of time we actually spend on the tasks that require our unique creativity, our context, our empathy, and our judgment, the percentage is almost always going to be skewed more heavily towards the daunting tasks versus the ones that are truly creative.
Yeah.
The way for us to think about this is, how can we apply this technology to our advantage to amplify us to do more of what we want to do, which we also will internally know that we want to spend more of our time on, but are just not able to do it in the busyness of day-to-day, I would say, tasks. Now take the framework and apply it to strategic project leadership, right? What AI can really do well is process signals to generate project plans and permutations of project plans probably way better than we as humans will be able to scale and do. AI can look at current project data, past project data, it can look at market trends data, it can look at examples of similar projects executed by your peer companies, by competitors, and it can give you incredible combinations of, here is a very low risk plan, here is a high risk plan, here is something in the middle, right? And AI can also do a lot of correlating. It can look at your previous projects, what you learned from your previous projects, the risks, the learnings, the failures, and correlate it to your current context. And it can give you insights into patterns that you need to think about as you go on your next project.
Yes.
AI can also play the role of an analyst and do some basic correlations and give you some hypotheses about what might be causing those correlations and patterns. But now imagine you're taking the plan, you're trying to go present it to a team, and you want to get the team bought into executing the plan. You're going to deal with raw human emotions, emotions such as fear of the unknown, including now increasingly with the AI technology. Hey, we are embarking on an AI project. What does this mean to my role? What does this mean to my future? The apprehension to change management, where the change management is not so much so rejection of the goodness that change can bring, but it's more the fear of the unknown of what the change might mean to each human. Then there is the foresight that needs to be applied based on lived experiences of both success as well as failures to truly discern the recommendations by AI, to determine what would actually work in the context of an organization or a specific project. And that context is not just technology. The context also has to include people and change management, the environment, including the customers who have to serve, how customers think and behave. So when you bring in all of these dimensions, strategic project leaders and the role that they play in navigating an organization through change, in navigating people through change, to truly pursue what is next, best, and great by scaling with the technology of AI is never going to go away. Strategic project leaders can truly emerge from being the musicians who are playing on the stage in an orchestra to being the conductor on the podium who can help steer together outcomes and influence outcomes, be the change agent, be the thought partner for business decision makers, and be the coach for cross-organizational functions to steer them towards those outcomes that can now be uniquely achieved when someone who's looking at the end-to-end as a strategic project leader can string together without having to bury himself or herself in the dull and the draining and the daunting tasks of constantly needing to manage schedules and stitch dependencies and follow the tactical execution. So if you took that example and combine the possibilities here, the moment in time has never been greater for project leaders to truly amplify and elevate to the next stage, to the next podium, where they can truly, I think, be the organizational transformation change agents, as opposed to just being looked at as like task takers and task orchestrators.
For sure. And I think I love that. I think you've actually raised a lot of great points there, because a lot of the times that's why I say we have project managers and we have people who want to become strategic project leaders. Because now, as we know, a lot of I can say like the mundane task can actually be taken away. But how can we truly connect what truly matters to strategic objectives to ensure that we're delivering project outcomes to overall ensure organizations actually more successful? And that's what it is. And yeah, I love the fact that you said we want to be able to leverage AI to help amplify those things that we think we're already great at. And now we can use that and leverage that to actually our own advantage. So it goes beyond just the normal reporting and stuff. We need to start going, we need to probably, after this, everyone listening, you need to probably go off and do an assessment and say, what are those skills? Go and take some stock and say, where exactly do I really know that I stand? Those, I call them my unique value assets. The ones that are unique to me, that when they call Fola, when they call, Karthik, there's something that he always brings to the table that no one else does. And then you want to find out how can artificial intelligence or technology altogether can help you elevate that particular skill set. And I'll definitely love this. Actually going to be like a personal one for you. How have you been able to leverage AI as well? How have you been able to use AI to amplify the things that you're already great at? Because I know you guys are the ones creating all of this great stuff. But how have you been able to leverage AI as well to help you as a leader become more successful? Because you have been doing this for a long time.
Yeah. Great question. So here again, let's start with the framework and then I'll give you my personal example.
Yes.
I think the most important framework is to understand the archetypes. Archetypes as in roles that AI can play and roles that you will continue to play. Right? So when I think about AI archetypes, I think about AI as a synthesizer that can process, connect, stitch signals way faster at greater scales than I as a human ever can. Right? I look at AI as a thought partner based on its ability to stitch the signals, being able to wallow with me and my thinking to help me shape and frame thoughts. AI can also play the role of a co-founder. You've got a great idea. Rather than sitting and writing a document with lots of words in it, can you use AI to put together, for instance, an interactive prototype, a visual storyboard that can help bring that concept to life faster, right? And then I think of AI also as a scaler in helping me do less of the tasks that are dull, draining, and daunting, and focus more on what is truly my unique strengths. And now if I think about my archetypes as a human, and this is not just about me, it's about any human in any role. The archetypes that we will continue to play are the archetypes of being systems thinkers, contextual systems thinkers who understand our domain, who have lived experiences, who can take recommendations from AI connected to the real world learnings and failures that we've experienced and successes, and be able to determine what's the best course of action for our contexts, right?
Yes.
And that systems thinking means we have to be T-shaped leaders. No one can connect the dots end to end as well as we can, and then choose the course of action, the leg of the T, to go do what's next together with AI.
Yeah.
The role that we play as change agents with empathy, continuing to being able to bring people along on the journey, helping people see what's in it for them, helping people elevate and upskill their day-to-day skills together with AI, right? The notion of being the outcomes leader, right? Where you're not focused on the tasks, but you can really elevate to focus on the outcomes. These are roles that are going to continue to be human roles. And something that took me a bit to figure out, because I come from a very technical background, and I've also got the accountability of running a pretty large business. And sometimes when you're so deep into the tech, you tend to geek out and get enamored by the tech and lose sight of answering the more fundamental question, which is, why is this tech important and what is the purpose that it's meant to serve?
Yes.
Myself, my colleagues, teams within my team, like we've gone through a lot of, like, I would say, reflections and experimentation on this, and we found a few scenarios that I think are highly, highly valuable to apply AI, and that has really improved our way of working. And I've shared a couple with you. The first one, for instance, one of the most toughest things to navigate in any organization is change management. Change management anchored on communications, interpersonal relationships. Very often, like really smart individuals, like can get into situations of conflict, which end up slowing down progress versus amplifying and accelerating progress. One of the powerful use cases that I've used AI for personally on that human connection level is being able to apply AI to go back and reflect on threads of conversations that I've had with different individuals, to look through like the various collaboration tools, to look through emails, to look through like recorded transcripts of meetings that we've been in, to do tone assessments, to do leadership coaching for both myself and the other party, to help us uncover the unspoken tensions and to make recommendations on how can we improve our communications to be more effective on the human side. On the applied side, a key part of my role is going in and creating killer narratives for our customers on how to apply data AI technology to scale their businesses. Something that I enjoy doing, for instance, is creating like great captivating story capturing slides and visuals and prototypes that can really bring those concepts to life, right? But I don't want to be sitting and spending all my time sitting and writing slide notes and transcripts and trying to explain all of those concepts and thoughts that I've managed to visualize. So that I use AI as a thought to help critique the concepts that I'm trying to visualize, but also to take those concepts and generate like really awesome transcripts and notes that can then be applied and shared with other users who can then read through those notes and understand the concepts I'm trying to communicate. And I've been pleasantly surprised by how awesome it can actually do at taking a good piece of thought that is a visual or a conceptual representation and converting it into like incredible like text and readable outputs that humans can read to understand the nuances underneath it. And obviously, it's not always perfect. There's always a human AI collaboration. Like while it can get me started, I still wanted to have my tone. I still need to apply my context, my judgment, my lived experiences to make sure that what it is saying is actually realistic. Right?
Yeah.
And it's a super interesting thing. Like, for instance, even the resource we're going to share with our audience, like I did the same exercise with the resource. I put together the slides, and then I had this thing go generate the transcript for me. It got it right, I would say 8 out of 10 times. And 2 out of the 10 times, it did not get it right? And I had to go in and actually fix the transcript to actually get it to convey what it actually should be conveying. Right. So that's an example. I gave you 2 very generic examples, and I'm keeping them generic and not deeply technical so that everyone can relate.
Everyone can also apply that, which is really great.
Concepts are the same, right? Think about how you can apply AI to improve your relationships and communications with humans. Think about how you can apply AI to help you do more of what you can uniquely do and take over the dull, daunting, and draining tasks, right? And if you can look at your role intuitively and reflectively and figure that combination out, I think you're going to crack that code. And then you're going to see a completely new level of empowerment. You could call it reinvention, you could call it your next innings, you could call it whatever you want to call it. But
superpower, your superpower.
Yeah, superpower. Yeah.
I think this is really great. And you just talking about that, I also leverage AI in a similar way. And I love the fact that you just said I could look at a particular meeting, but looking at the overall trends, especially with your team, that way it kind of gives you an unbiased feedback to say, I think that maybe this is kind of the tone, or maybe something wasn't clear, and you were prepared and armed. Hopefully you go to your next meeting and you can actually be better. I think that's one that everyone should actually take note of right away, to say, if you're not recording your meeting, if it's obviously, as long as you take permission, everyone knows you're recording the conversations, then that way you can get the data and have that. It's like the first easy win that we can, take away right away. So now you've mentioned very, very key point. I want to know, like internally from a technological standpoint, How do you think enterprise AI is really fundamentally shifting how projects are being planned and executed from what you can see internally and from what you can see with your colleagues externally as well? What's there? What should project professionals be aware of? What can they leverage? Maybe they don't even know that AI is capable of doing at the moment. What's coming?
Yeah. I think the technology is incredibly powerful. I think we're reaching the point of diminishing returns on more powerful models, as in like generate large language models, right? Model innovation is going to continue as some companies start to pursue towards the age of super intelligence as they speak to it. But first, I just want to be very clear about something. Like even in the age of super intelligence, everything we talked about in terms of the human differentiation and context is not going to go away. I want to start with that first, just re-emphasize that point. But now, if you talk about the technology evolution itself, models are getting to the point where now it is more about contextualizing and applying the models to different domains and industries, right? Large language models are great, but here's the challenge. They don't have the context that is unique to each industry, vertical, organization, and human. And that context is going to come from the humans. So fine-tuning these models, like training them for very specific domains and contexts, that requires lived experiences, signals that not just comes from data, but also comes from human empathy and understanding, where humans will have a huge role to play in evolving what would actually, in my mind, be the truly impactful models that affect industries and domains that are going to transform humanity and benefit the society. And that is a lot of work of leadership to be done by humans. Get excited for that work. In terms of the technology itself, the technology has reached like scales and speeds right now, which are more than sufficient to solve, I would say, like 95% of the things that are the lowest hanging opportunities for us to accomplish, whether from a business perspective or from a wider societal perspective. What is stopping us from being able to realize its maximum potential is what you rightfully called out at the start of our conversation today, which is the fear that is being induced in the humans. That fear has created a sense of apprehension, which is preventing humans from being able to embrace the tech, apply the tech, and create the innovation that is only possible when you bring the human plus AI advantage to front. So humans really have to get over that fear to be able to go in there and drive that kind of innovation. And leaders have a huge role to play in making sure that that fear gets solved by leading the conversation with the core premise of every transformative impact on AI being anchored on human ingenuity and scaled with the AI technology.
I think you just have the sweet spot. Can you please rewind and repeat that sentence? I think that's the key there.
Yeah.
Yes, it's about, that human ingenuity and the scaling it with technology. And I think there's a piece we hear AI. Technology has always been a catalyst to help drive and actually expedite pretty much solutions for decades. And even after AI, there's going to be something else. Quantum computing, right? It's going to be something. And we have in the mindset that we always need to have technology right there and leverage that to help propel us forward. I think that's the mindset shift that's actually needed. So it's not like it's going to just, we're going to wake up and everything's actually now going to be ruled by robots. Yep. I don't know, but that's what people are saying is like that existential crisis where you're not going to need anyone anymore. Karthik, go home. Fola, go home. The robots are like doing our dishes and, doing all the surgeries in the hospitals and everything. And,
So, Fola, I'll give you a real example, right? So my dad recently had a stroke and he's recovering from a stroke. And recently, like...
sorry to hear.
Yeah, no, thank you. And some tests had to be run on him recently. And the doctors put his data sheets from tests through a machine, and the machine recommended doing an endoscopy. The machine is good at saying, go do an endoscopy. But here's the deal. When the doctor went and spoke to my dad, the first words that he heard from my dad is, I'm scared. I don't feel comfortable doing an endoscopy. Inserting a camera through my nose to go into my tracheoscope tube to go in and get a scan of my lungs and my heart. I'm scared of the procedure. There is no technology, there is no system in the world, AI, superintelligence, or whatever, that is going to do what the doctor did next. The doctor empathized with the fear, understood my dad's position, and pivoted the treatment from doing an endoscopy, which is an intrusive camera insertion into his physical being,
Yeah.
to instead a simple barium swallow test, which is swallow a set of barium capsules, different compositions. We can monitor the flow of the barium through your system, and we can determine what is the right food composition that will enable you to reduce and prevent aspirations, which we need to stop for you to be able to fully recover from your stroke. That human judgment that the doctor made was not recommended by the technology.
Yes.
So that's a real life example to make it as human as possible, right? And there are several such examples that people go through in their day-to-day life, agnostic of profession, agnostic of context. What I bring it down to is this. You asked about technology evolution. We've been through the industrial age. We've been through the information age. We're now in the era of AI. We've seen classic AI, prediction. We've seen generative AI, creation. We've seen agentic AI. Rightfully, you mentioned quantum computing. What is that going to do? It's going to further increase the speed and scale at which signals can be processed and computed and pattern matched.
Yes.
Next, you've got the world talking about superintelligence. No matter what the evolution, the fundamentals of the applications of the technology needing to be grounded in the basics of human context, empathy, trust, judgment is not going to go away. The opportunity for us as humans is to really internalize them and think about those as being our unique modes and continuing to build and amplify those modes by applying this technology to our advantage, not looking at it as a threat. When we look at AI as a threat, we diminish, we shrink ourselves. When we look at AI as a tool, we can optimize better. Right? When we look at AI as a thought partner, as a collaborator, we can truly expand. It's our choice on whether we want to shrink, whether we want to just optimize, or whether we want to expand. And I would strongly encourage folks to think about expanding, right?
I think I love that. We need to look at AI as a tool so we can optimize it. So talking about tools, I know that you're in the thick of things. For specific things, what would you say are the best tools to achieve specific outcomes? So for instance, if you want to do collaboration work, can you give us some tools and some ideas as well that you have tested, you have tried, you guys are working that our viewers can actually leverage to start optimizing their own unique value assets today? So what tools? Give us some examples.
So I would say think of tools to optimize as well as think about collaboration to expand, because a tool can just produce some outputs, but it's only when you get into that interactive collaboration that you truly start expanding. So let's take some real examples, right? So I'm not going to mention any specific products because we're not here to sell any particular brand or technology or product. I just mentioned the categories of tools, and then folks can pick their preferred favorite tool and try to put it to the test. What I personally like doing is I like experimenting with different tools and seeing the outputs to compare.
Yes.
And then pick the one that's going to work and sustain the best, right? So let's take a few patterns, right? I think let's take the first pattern. Let's synthesize. Like there's multiple AI tools out there that can look at vast sort of like spectrums of data, as well as like signals, can synthesize, correlate those signals, causate, and provide some insights and recommendations, right? That broadly fits into the category of what you would call the synthesis tools, right?
Yes.
Then there's another set of tools that can act as your thought partner. Where you've got a general idea, you can go in and you can provide a prompt that describes the concept of the idea, and then you can follow with a tool to have it critique your idea. And it's very, very important in terms of what is known as the meta prompt that you set so that the tool can actually benefit you the best. Because sometimes when you don't set the meta prompt correctly, the tool will try to pacify you and sort of make you sound like you're the expert and that you're awesome and everything else, right? Which is AI hallucination, call it whatever you may.
I know. Oh my God.
What I like doing is I like telling the AI, like, you're a professional coach, you're a constructive critic. Now let's talk, right?
Yes.
And then the outputs that you get from that thought partner is going to be very different than the outputs you would get if you didn't set that context, right? Then I like another set of tools which are broadly categorized as my co-founder, right? So what I mean by my co-founder is like I got a concept, I got an idea. I don't want to write a document and go and bore people with like pages and pages of text. I want to work on a prototype. I want this thing converted into a clickable, a touchable, a feelable, like prototype based on some sample data that I can just rapidly pull up and have people experience for their own, and the light bulbs starting to go off, right? And I don't have the time to sit and write the code. I think those days are far behind me at this point. But what I can certainly do is I can, with my lived experiences and context, describe like what I'm looking to create with a good amount of clarity, and then have the technology do the prototype building for me, which I can then take and go use to evangelize the concept and get buy-in, right? So those are just a few examples. There's many, many more of such. And the tools are vast, right? There's tools from almost every major brand and several upcoming startups who are solving these tough problems and making it really, really productive for people to apply them. And what I would encourage folks to do is to experiment. Experiment with the tools. Here's 3 patterns I gave you. There's more in the resource that I share with you after this podcast today. There's more thoughts for you to go move on. And just keep the learning momentum going. It's a journey of continuous learning and adaptation, right? And that's another strength for humans. Like, we as humans are the most adaptive beings on the planet, right? We can truly, truly adapt. And sometimes I think what stops and prevents our adaptation is our fear. And the fear that's being escalated now at this time in the era of AI needs to be solved, needs to be like pretty much like cut at its roots, right? And that is on each of us. The other thing I'll also say is all of us sit and wait for some leader, some brand to come in with a magical solution. Let me tell you this, like, no technology provider is going to come and give you a magical solution that's going to focus on you front and center. Every technology provider is looking to figure out how to make the technology shine and cut costs and create savings and all the other stuff that decision makers want to hear. It is up to the leaders, and leaders not just being the folks in the formal leadership positions and C-suites. It's also every individual being a leader, taking on the leadership accountability to define what is next for them. How do they coexist, thrive together with this technology? And if every person starts to do that with intention, it is like the outcomes of that is going to be powerful. And for leaders of organizations, I think my one suggestion, humble request, would be like, engage your people in that exercise of thought partnership, right? Don't create fear in your people. Engage the people. Be vulnerable in saying that you don't have all the answers. And embrace the partnership together with your people to go define what's next. Create a safe house environment. Create the psychological safety to help them understand the uniqueness of the context, the empathy, the judgment, the trust that they bring, which cannot be replaced by any technology. And work together with them to define what the future for your organization, for your team should look like together with this tech. If this started happening, individuals taking accountability for their future, leaders creating a safe environment for individuals to do that, and collaboratively working through the vulnerabilities and the unknowns, boy, the impact we can create will be phenomenal.
We just heard that. There's just so much to unpack there. And when we think about it, I think really the ball really lies in your court. This is obviously the strategic lifestyle segment. We want to look at all this now and say, as individuals, what can we do? We've been trying to push this back in organizations, help them become better. So for you as a leader, let's now introspect and see, how can I leverage this tool? How can I become better? How can I be better equipped so I can show up professionally as well, more effectively to get better outcomes? Karthik actually just shared about how he leverages change management, for instance, even in his own personal life. But thinking about AI now, how can we be more effective with this tool for our own personal development? I know you've already spoken about how we can, double down on our own superpowers, what we're uniquely good at. But what else can we do personally to help ourselves leveraging AI?
Yeah. I mean, I would sum it up as following. I would say, like, think hard about the following. The technology has now created an opportunity for each of us to reinvent ourselves, to reimagine ourselves. This is our moonshot to take. Each of us as people, not just the large organizations, but each of us as people. And it is our accountability to put ourselves in the pilot seat of our rocket ship to take that moonshot reinvention. Right? And if we can deeply look at our crafts, our organizations, what each of us are uniquely strong at doing, and which only what each of us can uniquely do, and now thought about ways for us to apply this technology to scale up, to scale us, to make us faster, to make us like run with 10x more velocity to achieve the outcomes that is only possible when we bring our strengths together with the technology. It's like we can truly start to shape what is next, not just for us, but for our profession, for our craft, for several who are in the same seat as us, for the organizations and the purposes that we serve, and the outcomes that we stand to influence for humanity as well as for the community. Right? And I would strongly encourage everyone to go through the thought process of that exercise, right? So in this resource which I shared, which we will share, and I'm also writing up an article on this, which I'll publish soon to make it like more descriptive. Like for instance, if you look at this human archetypes slide that you're putting up over here, think hard about how AI can take on the roles of what you see on the AI age, right? AI is going to be great at synthesizing information, pattern matching, collaborating with you as a thought partner, like co-building with you, and even helping you scale. But there are things that you're uniquely positioned to do. The vision for what needs to be next, visionary sort of thinking in terms of putting together life learnings and lessons to define what's next, that's still you. Contextualizing that for your purpose, for your organization, for your own profession, that's you. Being able to take that vision and communicate it in a language that is relatable to your target audience, whether it's your customers, your peers, your stakeholders, your employees, that's you. Right? And stringing all this together to achieve the outcome that you need to achieve, which can only be influenced through change management and through orchestrating the stage, not by being the instrument on the stage, right? This technology has really created that opportunity. If you use an orchestra analogy, like the instruments have now gotten to a place where they're almost pitch perfect. The brass is never going to break. The tune is never going to go off the tune. And all of that is the AI. But imagine the instruments playing without an orchestrator. You're going to hear noise. You're not going to hear music. The creation of the music is going to come from you as the orchestrator who needs to string that end-to-end together. And this tech has now created an opportunity for every one of us to step on the podium and be that conductor or the orchestrator, right? No matter what your profession is, software engineer, product manager, project manager, like decision maker, leader in every one of the professions and more, medical professional, environmental expert, lawyer, you name it, right? There is so much opportunity for us to apply these common frameworks and figure out and define what's next for us, for our profession, for people in the profession in us, and the purposes and causes that we serve, right? So the moment has never been richer for us to read.
I know you have so much to say. We've got questions and answers. The thing is, you've just heard it, right? Karthik has so much to give. The thing is, I'm even so happy now. A lot of people are just like breathing a little bit better. They're like, okay, let me just breathe in. There is a lot of hope. You have so much room to, amplify your voice, amplify your skill. You have so much room to become a better version of yourself, leverage the tool. You may have had a goal to do, get on to the next role and you're wondering, how can I really do this? Now you have a tool that you can train to become your co-founder, your coach, your critic, and help have those conversations back and forth to make you even way better. So let's go to our questions and answers. I've got some couple of questions I've actually started here, and we just want to make sure we can get as much questions answered before the top of the hour. So what would be the impact of AI in project success rates?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think we should look at it more as project rates in general, right? Success is what we all want to strive towards getting to. But I would also measure the success of AI and being able to accelerate the time to meaningful learning. That's how I would approach it. And learning could be the success that we want to achieve, but learning could also be reflections on going down a path that may not lead to the outcome that we're trying to achieve, catching it fast enough, and pivoting towards a different direction that could get us to what we want to accomplish, right? So I would encourage us to think about projects and breaking down projects into the different phases that they usually go through, right? There's an ideation phase, there is an exploration phase, there is a decision-making phase, and then there is an execution phase followed by a scaling phase. Oftentimes, we wait until we get to the scaling phase to realize that something works or doesn't work. Imagine how cool it would be if you can actually move that upstream and actually even have the information and the insight that we need to make choices and decisions on whether an idea is worth pursuing, right? Whether the learnings that we got out of an initial minimal viable initiative is worth continuing to persevere, or should we be looking to pivot or stop and do something different, right? So for me, overall success is how do we accelerate the cycle times between and across each of these phases so that we can avoid late surprises and we can truly drive the most impactful investments with the fastest turn times possible. Now, what is also important in all of this is to look at the signals and the outputs, not just purely based on business metrics. You also got to look at it through the lens of the change management and the people you have to take on the journey with you, right? So project management might look very attractive, a project management plan, for instance. And the status tracking AI might tell you that you're on track, you're off track, you've got some reds, you've got some yellows and whatnot. In fact, it might tell you you're all green. But can the AI without the right signals actually tell you, oh man, you're green, but guess what? Your people are starting to battle. Your people are now starting to have incredibly harsh work-life balances, where because of the amount of hours they're putting into your project, they're hitting a point where very soon they're going to burn out because humans cannot burn candles both ends of the stick. If you don't think contextually about bringing the signals together, the practice, the people, as well as the business outcomes together, and as a project leader, your accountability is to stitch all of that, right? You could look super green today, but then if you've got a team that's going to bat out and they tire down, guess what? That green is not going to last for long. It's going to go yellow and soon red, right? So as a human project leader, it's also your accountability to work with this technology to ensure that it's got access to the full sum spectrum of signals that it needs to actually measure the health and tell you like what you should do next and where you should course correct. Right? So to me, it's not just about success as in just pure business outcomes. It's also success as in durability that needs to bring the system, which includes people together with success to make it sustain and endure. And then the other big thing for me is how quickly can you get to the learning that's going to help you determine whether something is worth doing, pursuing, scaling or not discovering it after the fact, when you're at the point of trying to scale something and it doesn't work. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I know when you're building like obviously like a minimum viable product, right? You want to know at what point do you say it's okay? Should we stop here and get the feedback and do it? But I think as you said, AI can actually help us kind of expedite the process where you can really see mistakes faster, adapt, pivot to, get the lessons in and make sure that we actually leveraging that. That's actually a great one. So at the end of the day, we keep hearing the same line around the context and that human piece. You can get the data. For us to be truly successful, it then means that we should be able to be processing the information faster, making sure that our teams understand, collaborate on it even faster, and then, iterate if we need to do that or pivot, change, and close things out so that we can be truly successful. That's great. We have another question. This is, you said, it's somewhat controversial. Isn't the sheer computation power and prowess of these AI systems not often constructed for intelligence?
Oh, David, thank you so much for, to me, it's not a question. I think you're making a statement here, my friend. And I could not agree with you more than what you just stated. Look, let's be clear, right? The ability to process signals fast and doing it at scale, it's called AI today. There's a lot of talk about super intelligence, which does not exist at this point in time. Let's be clear about it.
Yes.
None of that takes away the fundamentals of what is truly needed for contextual intelligence, emotional intelligence, right? As well as like organizational intelligence. Intelligence is not just creating insights from data. Like if we are not emotionally intelligent about recognizing the feelings and the empathies of the folks who have to work together with this technology to create like truly transformative impact and output, we're not going to get there. And if you don't understand true organizational intelligence, to understand the change management that has to be navigated to continue to scale and grow impactful transformations, it's not going to happen either. And guess what? Humans, including project leaders, have a huge role to play in that. Intelligence is the sum total of empathy, context, together with all of this information processing speed and scale that the technology provides. And oftentimes we index so much on the latter and not so much on the former. Right? So to me, it's like you're 100% accurate. Like presuming that power, speed, scale of processing signals is intelligence, that's a total misconstrued. True intelligence happens when you can take that power and apply it in a way that is contextual, that is empathetic, that is organizationally relevant, and that is anchored to a cause. And we got to be clear about something. There's a huge problem right now in the industry. Every major tech giant is investing billions of dollars into the tech. Has anybody cracked the code on how to actually make durable income from this tech? No, they've not. And all this talk about replacing humans, like let's take a step back. It's very nice to stand up on stage and say like, oh, this thing's got to grow like GDP. How is the tech going to grow GDP if the people who have to pay for the tech and benefit from the tech don't have the means to do that? It's a virtuous cycle, right? The economy is a virtuous cycle. People have to thrive. When people thrive, they have the means to invest and spend. And that then contributes to being able to explore and use the benefits of the technology. And then it's a constant virtuous cycle. And the people who are going to shape all of that goodness are humans. It's not technology, right? So this is an incredibly passionate topic. Thank you for raising it. We can go on about this for like hours at a stretch. But the most important thing to unpack is please don't misconstrue, the speed and the scale and the signal processing powers of the technology as being intelligence in and by itself. It's only when it combines with a human context that the intelligence gets created, right? And it's an incredibly, incredibly important thing to take away.
Yeah, I think the key thing is the speed, is the sheer computing power that AI brings to the table. The fact that they can pull data from so many sources and then analyze it. For you as a human, you still have to read that report and read the other report and compare the information. But I love the fact that you just mentioned that it's now bringing that information and saying, okay, what's the context? For instance, I know that when I was working with a client recently as well, there was a massive issue when it came to the overall transformation. And we looked at the data was actually pointing towards everything was actually looking really great on paper. However, when we saw the other markets, because we knew that some regulations had actually changed and things have actually already shifted, we knew some things already coming in the pipeline that was going to actually impact the project that AI obviously didn't actually have. However, again, because we were more proactive to say, how do we really interrogate this and how can we start changing things and pivoting? Even the times we put some information in, it's like, no, everything is actually looking good. But things had to change. We had to change our budget. We had to change the course. Some of the requirements also had to be shifted because we were responding to the context that was relevant at that particular moment. So it changes everything. And so for you as a leader, for you as a professional, it's about how can you now be ahead of the curve to understand where is the industry going. I think even at the World Economic Forum, we've been talking about technology and AI. Where are we looking? What are changes? Is it about climate change? Is it about whatever? What's more contextually, aligned with what you're doing that may impact your project? You can bring that in as a T-shaped leader so that you can create better results and help ensure that change definitely sticks. Okay, I think we have one more question here that we probably can take before our mystery question. It says, if AI-driven insight contradicts executive intuition, which should govern high-stake product decision and why? If AI insight contradicts executive intuition, which should govern high-stake product decision? Okay.
It's a great question. And I think it also brings to bear another key topic that people alluded to, but which we have to be explicit about, which is the importance of governance, right? And AI governance is now an entire branch of its own, right? And there's a technology facet to it, and then there's all the non-technology facets as alluded to by this fantastic question. For the time that we have, I'll take this question and focus on one specific angle, which is the difference between predicting and foreseeing. On surface, the two terms might appear as synonyms, but there's a big difference between prediction by tech like AI and foresight by humans. The prediction is looking at a set of signals, uncovering patterns, correlating patterns, giving you some causation insights, and it's making a recommendation to you. But the foresight is going to come from that lived human experience, the lived human intuition. Oftentimes, signals that are not coded in any data set, thereby not making it into any model that your AI has been trained on, and thereby not necessarily being fully represented in the outputs of the model. Because keep something in mind that is very simple. Your model, your AI, can only be as good as the data and the signals that it has been trained on. And that data and that signals is representative of what can be captured and is also containing biases that could have been captured in the data when it was created and generated. So you also can't assume that everything coming out of the model and the data is perfect. And this is where the human cognition, the human foresight, by applying experiences, lived learnings, both good as well as failures, to be able to do the n-order analysis and thinking of possible outcomes and pathways that could happen, to bring in the human context of the change management that is needed to scale something that looks super awesome on paper. There are more AI projects today that appear really cool in prototypes and which hit the wall the moment they have to try to scale it. The reasons are largely anchored on the lack of organizational change management, people readiness, and the lack of foresight into n-order outcomes that also need to balance risks and not just the value outcomes. That unique combinatorial thinking is foresight, and that foresight needs to come from the humans. So to answer your question, those kind of situations where you get into a place where the executive intuition and the AI outputs are at conflict, when you're at these two extremes, the truth is always somewhere in the middle. There's opportunity to apply the AI insights to perhaps re-examine and rethink your foresight. And there's also scenarios where you have to go with your gut and know that your foresight is going to have an n-order thought that the AI has not deciphered, and hence you make a decision in favor of the foresight. And in a true learning, in a continuous learning experience loop, you're going to be open to both those outcomes. And based on the decisions that you make, you capture those decisions, you feed them back into your model, and then keep iterating in a virtuous cycle, where this notion of foresight and predictions need to constantly play off of each other.
Right? I think that's right. It's like a marriage, right, with two people. We need to use both sides of it. And I think another piece that's actually important for professionals is beyond just providing information is about providing context and options. Mm-hmm. And so what I mean by that, for instance, if AI gives us some information to say, guess what, we need to maybe increase our cost by 20% because of these are kind of the permutations, kind of what we've seen from the data. And you want to use your own foresight and say, based on what I can see, the risk is higher. That way, you can bring the information together and then give the options to executives and say, based on this information, option one will be status quo is going to cost the business probably $5.3 million. Option two is to err on the side of our own foresight and take information from AI and say, no, we cannot just, take this risk a little bit as actually basic. And add an increment of maybe an extra 500,000 or $5 million, whatever. But give executive leaders options based on the information and let them make that decision. For you as a leader who is more equipped, that way, you've done the calculation, you've done the analysis, you've done the risk exposure, and then they can actually then make an informed decision based on what you've provided. And now you can go to bed and sleep at night knowing that you did all you could at that particular time. So let's quickly get to our mystery question from our last guest. Does good collaboration involving AI look like? What does it look like in steering committees, governance, forums, and portfolio review?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it comes back to the single concept of the keyword that's already called out here, which is it's about collaboration. It's about humans and AI collaborating with each other. And the specific forums that I mentioned here, I would say the two archetypes. We looked at the AI archetypes earlier, and I would encourage folks to think about two specific archetypes: thought partner and your co-founder, right? Because in steering committees, governance forums, portfolio reviews, those are very challenging moments in time where critical business decisions have to be made. And those decisions will end up impacting the outcomes and lives of many. In those scenarios, like the use of AI just as a synthesizer of signals is not sufficient. You also got to go beyond that and make sure that you're collaborating with the tech as a thought partner to reason through the different options on hand, while never, ever excluding your judgment. Your judgment always prevails at the end. But having the AI be your, as I used some archetypes to share with you my own examples, being my thought partner, like being my leadership coach, being my critical mentor, right? Having it play those roles to brainstorm with you and then eventually get to a place where you've got the inputs that you need to now apply your lived experiences, context, and judgment to make the best call, right? So thought partner and co-founder are the two archetypes that I find to be extremely useful when trying to navigate like the scenarios that the mystery guest has asked in his or her question. Yeah.
Top founder, co-partner. Yeah. This is actually like a coach and think like a strategist. Think as though like, look at all the risk possible. Don't be conservative. I always use that word as well. Let's deal with it exactly as it is. This has been so awesome. But I have this segment, as you know, I'm actually doing my own doctorate research, and my role as well is a little bit about collaboration. But I'm looking at a world where we can begin to collaborate more. And this is where I see where executives and the project leadership can actually co-create strategy. And so as an input into my doctorate research, you being a thought leader is what I want to know. What are your views and your perspective when it comes to collaboration with executive leaders and the executors earlier on beyond just the initiation of a project? So what do you think? Do you think it's going to impact product success? Would it impact team productivity? What are your thoughts on that? This is for my doctorate research.
Totally. Look, I would frame it first and foremost on no matter which of those persona archetypes we need to collaborate with. A fundamental that we have to be able to articulate with clarity is the simple answer to the question, what is in it for me? Right? A decision maker, a senior executive is very, very time constrained. They are looking to cut through the noise, get to the signals of what is the decision that they got to make to drive the organization forward and achieve the purpose. And you got to be able to correlate and translate storytell. The word I like to use is storytell. The concept that you're trying to influence or impact upon the decision maker to make the decisions that he or she really, really cares about front and center. With your people, it's complementary. It's about the what's in it for them is more going to be about how is this going to help me learn, grow, thrive, and succeed in the future. Don't come and give me a talk track that leads and ends with trying to take away and replace my core existence and my craft. Give me a talk track that's going to inspire me to want to do something different and change into that difference. That's also going to help me learn, grow, and develop fundamental human requirements. So as a leader, especially as a strategic project leader, being able to balance these two facets, it goes back to the same three fundamental principles: context, empathy, trust. And the trust element is critical. Building trust with the decision makers that you can influence and shape the right outcomes for the organization. Building trust with the individuals who have to get the work done. That they can do that in a psychologically safe environment and continue to thrive and grow. Now, for the individuals, I would strongly, strongly recommend that you consider the following. If you look at AI as a threat and are afraid about it, you're going to constrain yourself. You're going to limit yourself. If you look at it as a tool, you're going to end up optimizing the way you do your work. If you look at it as a collaborator, you're going to expand. You're going to expand into horizons that you probably haven't even started dreaming about. So go from losing the fear to using it as a tool and maturing to collaborating with it. You will never get displaced. You will continue to be the core anchor of all future transformative, impactful outcomes. And the tech is your ally. It's there to serve you. It's not there to replace you. Yeah.
You heard that. Technology is actually meant to be your ally, right? It's not here to replace you, but it's about how do you understand what you're also great at. So you use it, you leverage it to help you show up more effectively. I think that's been the message today. You need to go out and research. We've spoken about tools that can help you synthesize, tools that can help you collaborate, tools that can actually help you, expedite whatever process you're actually working on, and make sure you have the right metadata prompt. I think that's another key thing that has been mentioned here today. So what are you feeding AI even before you ask it any question? So you can actually help use it to actually give you feedback as well. Give it the right information. And make sure you check and interrogate the information it's giving you, because at times you may need to massage it a little bit. As Karthik said, he uses it for his overall change stuff, where he's actually been able to analyze his meetings, but at times some things may not be correct. So he went back and changed it. So you need to look at that very, very carefully. Set the context. I think that's actually key. Set a context, but overall, you know that you can provide foresight that AI cannot actually do. They can predict stuff, but you need to balance both sides of the coin to ensure that you are providing the right information so the organizations, leaders, and even you can make the right decisions, right? We are on the right track, and just breathe, grab yourself a cup of tea, relax, keep learning, and double down on all of those things. It's been a great pleasure to have you, Karthik, today. There's so much stuff. We can see more comments coming in. I just want to let you know that we've had Ghana. We've got people from all over. I couldn't get into the comments. I want to say thank you. And let me know if you're watching me live or on the replay, because this is going to be available on the replay. So that way we can get your questions also answered. What would be your final takeaway for everyone who's actually watched us? What will be that action? What should they go do right away so they can begin to maximize the potential that AI has to offer, as well as their own human advantage that they never knew they had?
Yeah. So I'll start with my own personal state, and then we'll generalize it more widely. Yeah. Look, I turned 50 last year. And we're traversing an industry now where most people, when they look at a 50-year-old, it's like it's a write-off, right? I mean, let's be real. Ageism has never been more real than what it is today. But let me tell you this, from a personal standpoint, I'm more energized now than ever before for the years ahead. I truly think that this tech is going to, when applied well and when approached with a collaborative mindset, is going to be the amplifier of my second innings, right? It's a moonshot to take, and I'm going to be the pilot of my own rocket ship. The reason I'm making that person is because I would love for every attendee in the audience and everyone who watches this to think about that in their own context. This is your moment of reinvention. It's your opportunity to craft your moonshot. It's your opportunity to be the pilot in the ship, the rocket ship that's going to take you to the moon. Energize for it, get excited for it, right? No one's going to come and give you the answer. Own it. Influence others. Stand up for your craft. Stand up for the people in your craft. When we come together as a community, the groundswell momentum that we can create and stir upwards is going to be what is going to create the next most transformative outcomes. Let's get together. Let's get behind this. Let's go for the moonshot and be the pilots of our rocket ships.
That's right. Let's be the pilot of our rocket ships. You just heard that. I'm so, when I hear things like that, I'm like, yes, let's do it. The change, the life you want, everything that you've always desired lies on the other side, right, of that comfort zone, right? Just lean in. I love that. Oh, Jules, thank you for actually saying that. Because at times you're like, we're scared, are we going to use it? We're going to leverage it. Leverage it. But ensure that you don't lose this mental piece. Because at times you're like, you get to be lazy. No, you want to challenge yourself still. Now you thought you want to read 5 books. AI's going to help you read maybe 10 or 20. Get an audiobook, plug it in. Think about how it can summarize things for you. There's so many tools to do that. Look at it as an ally. Let it help propel you to the next level. Goodness, it's just been awesome. I want to thank each and every one of you. Jules, I have a daughter who just joined. It's been so great. AI is a tool that propels you. And when you leverage it, for sure, you can actually become not even just being a rocket, you can become the rocket itself, right, for your organization. And that way, you can begin to create greater outcomes. I think one thing I'll just actually say, is there anything specific that, we probably haven't touched on, you think, they could actually be thinking about? Or you say, we've spoken about the human side, we've spoken about what's coming, but is there like anything else you think is actually extra? We're going to give you the tool. Oh yes, I just remember Karthik has created a resource. So make sure you connect, put in the comments and let me know you're interested, and just say resource as well. We're going to be sharing that with you, and please connect with Karthik. Like, he's open to answer your questions. He's been with Microsoft for 26 years. You know what I mean? So he's really passionate about technology. Let us collaborate together. You may have other questions you were not able to ask on this particular session, but let us definitely work together and elevate and become more successful. Let's increase project success, and let's become the catalyst for change. I am Fola Alabi. I'm always here to help support your journey. Connect with me. Let me know how I can be part of your transformations, with your organizations, with you on a personal note as well, because I believe that together we can create something bigger and better. It takes just the hard work, but you need to have the information. And I can help you go farther, but you want to start from experience. Leaders like Karthik, for instance, he's been in this for 26 years. You cannot compress it. You cannot take that experience away. That's exactly what we do when you come and work with experienced leaders like us. Folabi, I cannot wait to see you next week. I've got an exceptional leader. We're going to be talking about an interesting topic that talks about the project management office, how you can really elevate that beyond tools as well, but how you can be set up more for success. Let me know if you want to be on the show as well. Connect with me and let me know what questions you've been thinking about so we can get them answers. And also be a sponsor. Sponsor our show so we can talk about your product, your services, and what you definitely offer. I cannot wait to see you same time next week on the SPL podcast. Have yourself a good one. Remember, stay strategic. Bye-bye.